Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is a screencast-o-matic presentation on the part of the lesson that has you looking at specific party platform issues and policies, dividing, of course, liberals, Democrats, and conservatives, Republicans. Before we get started, please let me encourage you to open up to the lesson for today on Google Classroom. And then also please keep in mind that you are going to fill in your chart based off of talking points from this reading in your own words, from what Democrats and Republicans believe on certain issues. Before we get started, here's a little bit of an introduction just to kind of preface this the correct way. We all want the same things in life. We want freedom. We want the chance for prosperity. We want as few people suffering as possible. We want healthy children. We want to have crime-free streets. The argument is really how we achieve them. Liberals believe in government action to achieve equal opportunity and equality for all. It is the duty of government to alleviate social ills and to protect civil liberties and individual and human rights. Believe the role of government should be to guarantee that no one is in need, and liberal policies generally emphasize the need for the government to solve problems. Conservatives, on the other hand, believe in personal responsibility, limited government, free markets, individual liberty, traditional American values, and a strong national defense. They believe that the role of government should be to provide people the freedom necessary to pursue their own goals. Conservative policies generally emphasize empowerment of the individual to solve problems. So at this time, let's go into your chart and look at some of the biggest issues for Democrats and Republicans and decide where they stand in this way. Abortion. Liberal. A woman has the right to decide what happens with her body, they say. A fetus is not a human life, so it does not have separate individual rights. The government should provide taxpayer-funded abortions for women who cannot afford them, and the decision to have an abortion is a personal choice of a woman regarding her own body, and the government must protect this right. Women have the right to affordable, safe, and legal abortions, including partial birth abortion. On the issue of abortion, conservatives would say that human life begins at conception, and abortion is the murder of a human being. An unborn baby as a living human being has separate rights from those of the mother. They oppose taxpayer-funded abortions, and taxpayer dollars should not be used for the government to provide abortions. They support legislation to prohibit partial birth abortions, called the Partial Birth Abortion Ban. So as you can see, here are some key differences between the two parties on that issue. Now let's go ahead and look at affirmative action. Liberals believe that due to the prevalent racism in the past, minorities were deprived of the same education and employment opportunities as whites. The government must work to make up for that. America is still a racist society, they say, so therefore a federal affirmative action law is necessary. Due to unequal opportunity, minorities still lag behind whites in all statistical measurements of success. Republicans, on the other hand, believe that individuals should be admitted to schools and hired for jobs based on their ability. It is unfair to use race as a factor in the selection process. Reverse discrimination is not a solution for racism. Some individuals in society are racist, but American society as a whole is not. Preferential treatment of certain races through affirmative action is wrong. On the issue of the death penalty, liberals might say that the death penalty should be abolished. It is inhumane and is cruel and unusual punishment, and imprisonment is the appropriate punishment for murder. Every execution risks killing an innocent person. Conservatives, on the other hand, would say that the death penalty is a punishment that fits the crime of murder. It is neither cruel nor unusual, and of course executing a murderer is the appropriate punishment for taking an innocent life. On the issue of the economy, liberals might say that a market system in which government regulates the economy is best. Government must protect citizens from the greed of big business. Unlike the private sector, the government is motivated by public interests. So government regulation in all areas of the economy is needed to level the playing field. Now, Republicans or conservatives, on the other hand, would say that the free market system with competitive capitalism and private enterprise create the greatest opportunity and the highest standard of living for all. Free markets produce more economic growth and more jobs and higher standards of living than those systems burdened by excessive government regulation. On the issue of education, liberals and Democrats might say that public schools are the best way to educate students. Vouchers take away money from public schools, and government should focus on additional funds on existing public schools, raising teacher salaries, and reducing class size. Conservatives and Republicans would say that school vouchers create competition and therefore encourage schools to improve performance. Vouchers will give all parents the right to choose good schools for their children, not just those who can afford private schools. On your chart, the next issue that you are responsible for here is energy. Liberals and Democrats would say that oil is a depleting resource. Other sources of energy must be explored. The government must produce a national plan for all energy resources and subsidize, partially pay for, alternative energy research and production. We should support increased exploration of alternative energy sources such as wind and solar power and support government control of gas and electronic industries. Republicans and conservatives, on the other hand, would say that oil, gas, and coal are all good sources of energy and are abundant in the U.S., and oil drilling should be increased both on land and at sea. Increased domestic production creates lower prices and less dependence on other countries for oil. Support increased production of nuclear energy. Wind and solar sources will never provide plentiful, affordable sources of power, Republicans say, and we should support private ownership of gas and electric industries. The next section that we are responsible for here in our chart is on the issue of global warming and climate change. Liberals would say that global warming is caused by an increased production of carbon dioxide through the burning of fossil fuels like coal, oil, and natural gas. The U.S. is a major contributor to global warming because it produces 25% of the world's carbon dioxide. Proposed laws to reduce carbon emissions in the U.S. are urgently needed and should be enacted immediately to save the planet. Many reputable scientists support this theory. Republicans and conservatives, however, would say that change in global temperature is natural over long periods of time, and science has not shown that humans can affect permanent change to the Earth's temperature. Proposed laws to reduce carbon emissions will do nothing to help the environment and will cause significant price increases for all. Many reputable scientists support this theory. On the issue of gun control, and once again this should sound familiar, liberals and Democrats would say that the Second Amendment does not give citizens the right to keep and bear arms, but only allows for the state to keep a militia like a National Guard. Individuals do not need guns for protection. It is the role of local and federal government to protect the people through law enforcement agencies and the military. Additional gun control laws are necessary to stop gun violence and limit the ability of criminals to obtain guns. More guns means more violence. Republicans and conservatives, on the other hand, would say that the Second Amendment gives citizens the right to keep and bear arms, and individuals have the right to defend themselves. There are too many gun control laws, and additional laws will not lower gun crime rates. What is needed is enforcement of current laws. Gun control laws do not prevent criminals from obtaining guns, and more guns in the hands of law-abiding citizens mean less crime. The next issue we're going to analyze real quick is a very personal issue to many Americans. On the issue of health care, liberals and Democrats would say that we need to support free or low-cost government-controlled health care. There are millions of Americans who can't afford health care and are deprived of this basic right. Every American has a right to affordable health care. The government should provide equal health care benefits for all, regardless of their ability to pay. While Republicans and conservatives would say that we should support competitive free market health care systems. All Americans have access to health care, and the debate is about who should pay for it. Free and low-cost government-run programs, socialized medicine, result in higher costs and everyone receiving the same poor-quality health care. So health care should remain privatized. The problem of uninsured individuals should be addressed and solved within the free market healthcare system, and the government should not control healthcare. On the issue of homeland security, liberals or Democrats would say in regards to airport security, passenger profiling is wrong. Selection of passengers for extra security screening should be random. Using other criteria such as ethnicity is discriminatory and offensive to Arabs and Muslims, who are generally innocent and law-abiding. Terrorists don't fit a profile. Conservatives and Republicans, on the other hand, would say in regards to airport security that choosing passengers randomly for extra security searches is not effective. Rather, profiling and intelligence data should be used to single out passengers for extra screening. Those who do not meet the criteria for suspicion should not be subjected to intense screening. The terrorists currently posing a threat to the U.S. are primarily Islamic Muslim men between the ages of 18 and 38. Our resources should be focused on this group, and profiling is good logical police work. Next, on the issue of immigration, which once again should sound very familiar, liberals and Democrats support legal immigration. They support amnesty for those who enter the U.S. illegally, like undocumented immigrants, but they also believe that undocumented immigrants have a right to all educational and health benefits that citizens receive, like financial aid, welfare, Social Security, and Medicaid, regardless of legal status. But they also believe that they should have the same rights as American citizens. They think it is unfair to arrest millions of undocumented immigrants, and of course they are against deportations. Conservatives and Republicans, on the other hand, do support legal immigration only. They oppose amnesty for those who enter the U.S. illegally, legal immigrants, of course, and those who break the law by entering the U.S. illegally do not have the same rights as those who obey the law and enter legally. The borders should be secured before addressing the problem of illegal immigrants currently in the country. The federal government should secure the borders and enforce current immigration law. Next up, on the issue of religion and government, liberals would say that we should support the separation of church and state. The Bill of Rights implies the separation of church and state fully, and religious expression has no place in government. The two should be completely separate. Government should not support religious expression in any way either. All references to God in public and government spaces should be removed, like the Ten Commandments should not be displayed in federal buildings, and religious expression has no place in government whatsoever. Conservatives and Republicans, on the other hand, would say that the phrase of separation of church and state is actually not in the Constitution, and the First Amendment to the Constitution states that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. This prevents the government from establishing a national church or denomination. However, it does not prohibit God from being acknowledged in schools and government buildings. Symbols of Christian heritage should not be removed from public and government spaces, like the Ten Commandments should continue to be displayed in federal buildings, but government should not interfere with religion and religious freedom. Next, on the issue of same-sex marriage, liberals or Democrats would say that marriage is a union of people who love each other. It should be legal for gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender individuals to ensure equal rights for all. We should support same-sex marriage. Opposed to the creation of constitutional amendment establishing a marriage as a union of one man and one woman, and all individuals, regardless of their sexual orientation, have a right to marry. Prohibiting same-sex citizens from marrying denies them of their civil rights. Now, conservatives and Republicans, on the other hand, would say that marriage is the union of one man and one woman, and they oppose same-sex marriage, and they support the Defense of Marriage Act, or DOMA, which was passed in 1996, which affirms the right of states not to recognize same-sex marriages licensed in other states. They believe in requiring citizens to sanction same-sex relationships, that it violates moral and religious beliefs of millions of Christians, Jews, Muslims, and others, who believe marriage is the union of one man and one woman. And then finally, on the issue of taxes, liberals or Democrats believe that higher taxes, primarily for the wealthy, and a larger government are necessary to address inequity and injustice in society, and government should help the poor and needy using tax dollars from the rich. We should support a large government to provide for the needs of the people and to create equality. Taxes enable the government to create jobs and provide welfare programs for those in need. Government programs are a caring way to provide for the poor and needy in society. Now, Republicans and conservatives, on the other hand, believe in lower taxes and smaller government with limited power will improve the standard of living for all. We should support lower taxes and a smaller government, and lower taxes create more incentive for people to work, save, invest, and engage in entrepreneurial endeavors. Money is the best spent by those who earn it, not the government, and government programs encourage people to become dependent and lazy, rather than encouraging work and independence. So there you guys have it. Some of the biggest ideological and philosophical differences between Democrats and Republicans. With this information now, you should not only be able to fill out the chart for the lesson, of course, but you should be able to have a clear indication of who you are in terms of party affiliation and what you believe. Thank you very much for tuning in, and good luck with the rest of the lesson.